Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive.
The podcast that doesn't just accept the story.
We break it
We examine the pieces.
and expose the machinery inside. Let's dive in.
What if the meditation practice you're using to find inner peace was actually designed to keep you attached, to outer success?
That tension, yeah, that philosophical knot, that's exactly what we're dissecting today. We are going deep, really deep into this world of optimization spirituality. The calculated effort to use spiritual techniques basically as productivity hacks. Specifically, we are analyzing the 6-phase meditation method. It's huge.
It really is. And our source material for this, well, it's pretty extensive. We've got detailed analyses, critical academic takes on this exact protocol.
Right.
We're tracing that fundamental, often kind of uncomfortable tension between ancient spiritual traditions.
Yeah.
The ones focused on surrender, non-attachment.
The classics.
Exactly. And these modern achievement frameworks that demand control, numbers, measurable results. Everything has to be an outcome.
The mission is clear then. And it's a big one, like you said. We're systematically looking at a meditation protocol that's positioned not really as a path to, say, enlightenment, but as a direct, almost mechanical tool for generating material success, worldly success. It's enlightenment rebranded as a high-performance strategy. Simple as that.
Which brings us right to the core question, doesn't it? The one we have to confront. Why are we seeing this pattern? Why is traditional Eastern wisdom, often centuries old, being systematically repackaged?
Yeah, distilled down.
Operationalized even.
Right.
Specifically for Western achievement culture. Think entrepreneurs, corporate climbers, Silicon Valley types.
Target demo.
Right. What essential depth, what core wisdom gets fundamentally lost when you try to optimize surrender?
Okay, let's unpack this mechanism. Let's get into the protocol itself. The 6-phase method. Vishen Lakhiani, Mindvalley, it's their big thing.
And right off the bat, it's not just passive mindfulness.
Yeah.
It's not simply watching your breath. The framework explicitly calls it active meditation.
Active meditation. What does that signal?
Well, our sources point out the term active meditation. It's borrowed. Think Silva method, things like that. It signifies a really deliberate repurposing of consciousness.
Repurposing how?
Instead of just letting thoughts drift by, the mind is consciously directed. It becomes a systematic, focused tool for problem solving. It's like an instruction manual for, well, shaving reality.
And that systemic nature, that step-by-step process is key, isn't it? It appeals directly to that demographic we mentioned because it removes all the ambiguity.
Completely.
Follow steps 1 through 6, get output X. It feels like a business process flow, not some messy spiritual journey.
Let's walk through the first few phases. They deal with relationship management, both internal and external, but with that classic optimized twist.
Right. Phases 1 and 2. Compassion and gratitude. Sounds lovely, very virtuous.
On the surface, yeah. But the system immediately strips them of their sort of altruistic or ethical context. They get reframed entirely for personal gain.
How so with compassion?
Compassion is presented purely as a tool, a neurological self-regulation tool.
Okay, break that down. It's not about feeling for others.
Not primarily, no. It's not about alleviating suffering out of selfless love. It's about regulating your own nervous system to make sure you stay in a peak state, a high-functioning state.
Ah, so it's transactional virtue. If I feel universal love, my nervous system calms down. I'm less stressed. Therefore, I'm more effective in my business deals.
You nailed it. It's basically self-care disguised as global awareness and gratitude. Same pattern.
Okay.
The practice is expanded very specifically to include radical self-appreciation. This isn't just being thankful for external things.
Way to self-focus.
It's designed to actively fight any perceived self-loathing, maybe imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Patch up those psychological leaks that might slow down the achievement engine.
So the spiritual practice is engineered. It becomes a sophisticated internal performance metric.
Precisely. And this shift, this move from ethics to efficiency, it just becomes glaringly obvious in phase 3. Quantified forgiveness.
Quantified forgiveness. Okay.
This system demands the practitioner go through a really rigorous, exact 8-step forgiveness protocol. It's structured, not some spontaneous feeling.
8 steps. Very specific.
And here's the truly audacious claim our sources flag. The system says that completing this structured mental emotional process, it can improve specific physical metrics.
Physical? Like what?
We're talking things like increasing your vertical jump height
Wait, what?
or demonstrably improving your athletic endurance.
Hold on. Let's pause right there. You're telling me a mental exercise, clearing out old hurts, is marketed as a way to literally jump higher.
That's the claim.
What do the sources say about the appeal of that? Why link something deep and messy like forgiveness to a clean, measurable, physical number?
Because that's the ultimate achievement metric for the modern sort of optimized mind. The target demographic, that competitive corporate professional, they trust things they can quantify.
Right. Numbers don't lie, supposedly.
Exactly. They don't necessarily trust this subjective feeling of relief after forgiveness. That's too soft, too ambiguous. But data, a verifiable 2-inch increase in their jump, a minute off their race time, that they trust.
It just removes the spiritual ambiguity, doesn't it? Forgiveness stops being an act of grace or inner peace.
And becomes an 8-step process. Execute correctly, get verifiable ROI in physical performance. If you can measure it, you can commodify it. Turns a messy spiritual process into a clean achievement.
Okay, so internal system regulated, cleansed via quantified forgiveness. What's next?
Phases 4 and 5 shift outwards. Purely external goal setting. Future vision and the perfect day exercise.
Future vision, that sounds like standard visualization.
It is, but intense.
Yeah.
It focuses hard on your conscious desires, the explicit what you want, the job title, the revenue, the relationship, and the why behind it.
Oh, what's the mechanism?
Here's the interesting part our sources highlight. The system demands you consciously surrender the execution. You define the goal, the destination. But you have to let go of the how, the when, the who. You don't worry about the logistics.
That's psychologically very clever, isn't it?
Extremely effective. It lets the user demand maximum results, be really specific, while outsourcing all the pressure, the anxiety of actually making it happen to the universe. The implementation headache isn't yours.
Clever. And phase 5, perfect day.
That's the mental rehearsal piece, a dedicated visualization practice. You pre-program your consciousness by mentally walking through your ideal day, moment by moment.
Leveraging neuroscience, I assume. Mental prep, neuroplasticity.
Exactly. But the intent here isn't just general planning, it's explicitly manifestation priming, getting your mind ready to receive.
Okay, and the final step, phase 6.
Phase 6 is blessing. This is where you frame it as connecting your specific, quantified, optimized goals.
All those things from phases 4 and 5.
To a higher power or the universe, whatever language works for you. It's the final step. Ensures your highly personalized wish list gets plugged into the universal battery pack. Gives it cosmic juice.
So, wrap it up for us. We've got a system perfectly tailored for achievement culture.
Absolutely.
The marketing uses celebrities, appeals to science, or scientific legitimization, establishes credibility with people who want structure, not ambiguity.
Yeah, it's the ultimate spiritual status symbol, in a way.
Right.
A rigid 6-step plan to get regulated and rich, all supposedly backed by brain research.
Okay, let's peel back another layer. Let's look beyond the phases themselves at the theoretical scaffolding, the operating system that makes this whole manifestation machine supposedly run.
Right, because the structure relies on some very specific kind of novel concepts that really need a close look. A deconstruction.
And the first one sounds contradictory right from the start. Discipline.
Discipline, yeah, it's the core idea. Discipline, but oriented not towards traditional things like mastery or virtue or non-attachment.
Which you'd expect from spiritual practice.
Exactly. Instead, it's explicitly oriented towards maintaining bliss states.
Yeah.
Peak state orientation. Making sustained, almost performative happiness the mandatory default setting.
Okay, I have to jump in here with the scalpel. What's the inherent danger, psychologically, in defining discipline as compulsory maintenance of a peak state?
Huge danger.
If I'm practicing discipline and I feel, I don't know, natural sadness, frustration, just honest anger about something, I'm not just having a bad day, according to
You're failing the practice itself.
Right.
And that is the profound psychological trap. The system essentially pathologizes negative emotions. It defines success as the sustained absence of deviation from that peak state.
Which puts immense secondary pressure on you.
Totally. Struggle, difficulty, the things that are often essential for real growth, for psychological processing, they get immediately reframed as an inherent failure of your spiritual metric. You didn't keep your bliss level high enough.
So you're trading an authentic, complex, messy human experience for what? Sustained performative happiness. It sounds like a forced spiritual bypass.
That's a great way to put it. But for those who buy into it, the system needs a model. It needs to explain how this enforced bliss translates into external reality, quantitatively.
And that brings us to the famous 3-part manifestation model.
Exactly. This quantitative model, often attributed to Marie Diamond, tries to neatly package destiny and desire into these exact comforting percentages. Makes it feel scientific.
Like a formula for reality.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It suggests reality is broken down into 3 neat components, each controlling exactly 33% of any given outcome.
Okay, let's unpack that specific division. 33, 33, 33. Feels balanced, maybe believable, but also vague enough to explain anything that happens or doesn't happen.
Right. So first, you've got intention, 33%.
Yeah.
This is your conscious desires. The hard work you put into your future vision, your perfect day visualization. This is the slice of reality you actively influence.
The part you control.
Second, destiny, 33%. This is presented as your soul's predetermined path, a fixed element of your life purpose, non-negotiable, already written.
So 33% is fixed, immovable, and the third part?
That's group consciousness, 33%. Basically the environmental energy, the cultural vibes, the chaotic traffic of humanity around you influencing things.
The genius of this model, it seems, is how it explains everything, especially failure.
Exactly. It gives you, the user, this massive sense of agency with that 33% intention. Fuels your hope, makes you feel powerful.
It keeps you doing the work.
But simultaneously, it explains away the other 67% that's outside your immediate control. If things don't work out, well, it wasn't your intention failing.
It was destiny or group consciousness.
Precisely. It provides a neat excuse, and that's captured perfectly in their highway analogy.
Right. Explain the highway analogy.
Okay, so the analogy says your life purpose is a fixed highway. That's your destiny, the 33% fixed map. You can't change the highway itself.
Got it.
But you control the steering wheel, the lane changes on that highway. That's your intention, your 33% of control.
Okay. Makes sense so far.
But the speed and success of your driving, your lane changes, they're affected by the traffic conditions. Other cars, accidents, weather, that's group consciousness. The final 33%.
So what's fascinating and maybe manipulative here is how it gives you that feeling of control
Big time.
while simultaneously outsourcing 2/3 of the outcome. You can intend all you want, visualize perfectly, but if you hit a dead end built into the highway, destiny, or get stuck in traffic,
Or conscious.
consciousness.
It's not a failure of the system or even your effort. It neatly mitigates failure anxiety, provides a built-in spiritual scapegoat. It's a structurally sound model for disappointment.
Wow. Okay. And how do they tie this back into the corporate world, the target demo?
By incorporating the positivity quotient, or PQ. This is a metric measuring the ratio of positive to total thought.
Okay, another number.
And the system loves to cite, for example, Gallup studies showing a correlation between high PQ scores and things like better workplace performance, resilience, team effectiveness.
This is the ultimate genius move, isn't it, as our sources put it?
Totally.
By bringing in PQ, they give you a corporate measurable metric for your spiritual work. It transcends vague feelings.
You're not just meditating anymore, you're actively improving your quantifiable PQ score.
It supposedly makes you a better employee, a more effective leader, more valuable.
It translates the internal, maybe transcendental benefits of meditation directly into ROI, return on investment. And that's the language this demographic understands and trusts.
The whole theoretical structure, then, it's architected not really for wisdom or self-knowledge,
No,
but for measurable, validated, corporate-friendly results.
that's the bottom line.
Okay, we've got the system, the phases, the theories. Now let's bring out the intellectual scalpel. The system leans heavily on the language of science for authority.
Time.
But we need to talk about selective scientism. Where does the evidence actually hold up, and where does it just evaporate?
This is where the whole narrative gets incredibly shaky. The method is really expert, you have to admit, at pulling specific, legitimate research areas to create this aura of evidence.
A scientific veneer.
Exactly. But then they apply those findings way beyond their actual scope, beyond what's been proven. They borrow scientific legitimacy to sell spiritual promises. It's a bait and switch.
Okay, let's be specific. Let's outline the main areas of legitimate research they cherry pick from so you, the listener, can see the foundation they're misusing.
Right. First, they often reference HeartMath Institute research, and this is legitimate work. It focuses on heart rate variability, HRV, heart coherence.
Biomarkers for health.
Right. Biomarkers for physiological health, emotional coherence. And its true focused meditation practices do measurably increase heart coherence. That correlates with reduced stress. That part's solid.
Okay, what's the second?
Second, they'll cite specific studies like from the Biocybernard Institute looking at deep meditation practitioners. Monks, typically.
Oh, brainwave stuff.
Yeah. This research demonstrably shows advanced meditators often exhibit high alpha amplitude in their brainwaves, strong left-right brain coherence, again, genuine, measurable, positive neurological results from disciplined practice. No argument there.
And the third area?
Third, they lean pretty heavily on concepts from psychoneuroimmunology, or P&I.
Mind-body connection.
Exactly. P&I is the study of how the mind influences health via the nervous system, the immune system. It's a complex field. They use it to justify some highly specific mind-body claims, like the mind-skin connection being used to claim you can heal things like acne through mental practices alone.
Okay, so heart math, brainwave studies, P&I, all real fields showing real, measurable benefits of mental practice on physiology. But here's the crucial point, the bait and switch you mentioned.
This is it. They take that inch of verifiable scientific benefit, like stress reduction, maybe better brain coherence,
Things meditation genuinely helps with.
and they immediately stretch it a mile, demanding a magical outcome. It's like manifesting destiny or changing external reality based on thought alone.
So the gap is huge.
Precisely. While the neurological and physiological benefits from the early phases, like compassion and gratitude, might be scientifically plausible in general terms,
Reduced stress?
yeah, there is absolutely zero rigorous empirical support for the system's claims on the back end, the big promises.
Meaning, no proof for the manifestation part.
Meaning, there's no objective, peer-reviewed data supporting the specific manifestation claims. The idea that the universe directly responds to your intention work, your 33% to deliver a new car, a promotion, a specific amount of money. That's pure metaphysics. It's belief, not science.
And what about that really specific claim from phase 3? The quantified forgiveness boosting athletic performance. Jumping higher.
Our source material confirms there's limited, if any, replication of that specific highly detailed claim. The idea that an 8-step mental forgiveness protocol consistently translates into verifiable physical metrics, like a higher vertical jump or better endurance.
It's just not backed up.
Not rigorously.
Yeah.
They might show a general reduction in stress hormones from forgiveness, which could indirectly improve performance for some people, maybe. Yeah. But the direct, causal, quantifiable link they promise, it's unsubstantiated. It hasn't been proven.
This is what we call intellectual camouflage, right?
Perfect term.
Using impressive-sounding neurological terms, alpha coherence, HRV, PNI, to validate experiences and outcomes that are fundamentally transcendental, or at least unproven. They have no rigorous testing behind them.
It makes the spiritual sound like a lab result, which is deeply misleading to people looking for real answers.
So the term we have to use here is selective scientism.
Exactly. The calculated, strategic use of scientific jargon, cherry-picked facts taken out of context, all to lend objective weight to highly speculative, unproven spiritual promises.
It validates the user's feeling that they're doing something structured, evidence-based.
Even when the outcomes they're chasing are, frankly, pure fantasy, scientifically speaking.
It's the ultimate spiritual product packaging, isn't it?
It really is. You're guaranteed some emotional regulation, some coherence, which, okay, structured medication can deliver. That's the bait.
But you're promised guaranteed destiny-shaping results, which you almost certainly won't get in the way they describe. That's the switch.
You're essentially buying a structure based on borrowed science, hoping to achieve magic based on pseudoscience.
Which leads us directly into the inherent philosophical tensions. This is where the intellectual showdown happens, where the whole architecture starts to creak under its own contradictions.
Yes. The moment you try to enforce a rigid, specific, 6-phase protocol to achieve something like spiritual freedom or surrender, you're immediately trapped. That's the core philosophical tension.
Our critical analyses all point to this primary contradiction, the structured surrender paradox. Explain that.
Okay. Surrender, in almost all profound spiritual traditions, East or West, means consciously letting go of control, of desire, of trying to manipulate outcomes. It's about acceptance.
Right, non-attachment.
Yet this system gives you a highly exact, systematic, step-by-step protocol that claims to produce that spontaneous state of surrender.
How can a rigid structure produce spontaneity?
It can't. The method itself controls the path to freedom. It dictates every step. This makes true surrender, true letting go, fundamentally impossible because the practice itself relies on a highly structured outcome, on getting those results.
It's the ultimate cognitive dissonance. You're demanding absolute non-attachment.
By following a rigid, step-by-step, 40-minute process.
That's designed specifically to maximize your intentional attachment to specific material goals you defined earlier.
It's like demanding absolute spontaneity by reading from a 30-page script. The very rigidity of the practice undermines the non-attachment it supposedly aims for.
And that operational flaw, that paradox, it leads right into the next big issue, instrumental spirituality.
Exactly. The inherent flaw here is using methods traditionally aimed at intrinsic spiritual ends goals. Enlightenment, self-realization, connection to the divine, whatever you call it,
Things valuable in themselves.
for purely material, purely worldly success. The spiritual journey becomes just a means to an external, often expensive material result.
This is the classic spiritual materialism critique, isn't it?
Textbook. If my primary reason for practicing compassion is just to regulate my nervous system so I can keep my bliss state high and close a better business deal.
That's not spiritual growth.
No, that's emotional leverage. It's internal manipulation for profit. The potential spiritual depth is completely subordinated, made secondary to the material end goal.
And this tension gets amplified when we look back at that quantitative model. The 33% split, the clash between destiny, 33%, and agency, intention, 33%.
Right. If 33% of your life is a fixed, predetermined highway called destiny,
how can the other 33% of your free intention truly manifest creative, new, unforeseen outcomes? Where's the actual freedom if the destination is already set?
it creates an illusion of choice designed to keep you engaged, keep you working the system.
You get to pick your lane on the highway, visualize your Lexus.
But you don't get to pick the destination. That was supposedly predetermined by your soul's fixed path. And if you don't like where you end up,
The system has an out. It was 33% destiny, 33% group consciousness. Your 33% intention did its best, but hey, external factors.
it neatly absolves you and the system of total failure. But perhaps the most dangerous philosophical failure point, circling back to blisscipline, is the clash between bliss versus reality.
That insistence on peak state orientation.
Yes. It fundamentally denies the therapeutic value, the growth value of the full spectrum of human emotions: grief, struggle, anxiety, honest anger. Where do they fit?
Let's really analyze the psychological safety risk here. If your definition of success is constant bliss, what happens when life inevitably throws you a curveball?
A real loss, a business failure, a relationship ending.
Things that happen to everyone.
The system doesn't teach resilience through suffering. It teaches immediate avoidance of any deviation from the peak state. Get back to bliss, quick.
Which actually doubles the psychological load, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The suffering itself is painful. But now it's also interpreted as a failure of your spiritual practice.
You failed to manifest correctly. Your PQ score dropped. You're spiritually inadequate.
When in reality, a genuinely robust, resilient practice must incorporate and process negative emotions. They're signals. They're part of being human. You can't just pathologize them as signs of failure.
So the conclusion here is pretty stark. We're looking at a spiritual framework that seems expertly designed for the upslope, for when things are going well, for achievement.
Yeah, it fuels ambition.
But it provides virtually no coherent philosophical tools, no real psychological support for navigating the inevitable valleys, the hard times of human existence.
It's built for sunshine, not storms.
Okay, this whole optimization framework, it feels very modern, very Silicon Valley, but you're saying structurally it's not actually new.
Far from it. It sits on a long, kind of precarious historical timeline. A history of systems that promised systematic, measurable, often fast enlightenment or success.
Only to run into trouble.
Exactly. They failed due to inherent philosophical or structural limitations in their design, often the same limitations we're seeing here.
It's crucial, then, to put the six-phase method into this historical context. Understanding past mistakes helps reveal the future risks.
Absolutely. Because we've seen this specific architectural flaw, spiritual formulas leading directly to material outcomes play out again and again.
Give us some examples.
Okay, look back at the EST training Erhard seminars training back in the 1970s. Huge phenomenon.
Landmark and self-help.
Totally. It promised systematic, fast enlightenment. You'd get it. But the system had major limits. It was authoritarian, very controlling structure, intense confrontation.
And it caused problems for people.
Critically, yes. It led to documented psychological harm for a significant number of participants who just couldn't handle that high-pressure, breakdown to breakthrough environment.
The similarity being that rigid, intense, non-negotiable protocol promising total transformation.
Precisely. Then skip forward to the 80s and 90s. The massive boom of the New Age prosperity gospel.
Okay, that's more explicitly about wealth.
Explicitly, the promise was use spiritual practices, positive thinking, visualization, affirmations, energetic alignment to generate instant, demonstrable wealth and health.
And the limitation there.
The core issue was that the intense material focus completely undermined any real spiritual depth. The means prayer, visualization, became entirely subordinate to the end, getting rich.
Once the material goal is primary,
The practice stops being truly spiritual. It just becomes another form of self-interested manipulation, trying to bend reality to your will.
and then more recently, the phenomenon that was The Secret, mid-2000s.
Huge. It took the idea of manifestation and really oversimplified it into the law of attraction. Focus on what you want, the universe must deliver it, like a cosmic vending machine.
And the downside of it.
The really corrosive effect was widespread victim blaming. If you didn't achieve your goals, if you got sick, if something bad happened,
It was your fault.
it was your fault. You didn't vibrate right. You had negative thoughts. You didn't intend hard enough. The spiritual burden for any external failure was placed entirely back on the individual. Very damaging.
So EST, prosperity gospel, The Secret, they all seem to share that fundamental architectural flaw with the six-phase method we're dissecting.
Yes. They treat the spiritual path like a transactional formula. Put in X spiritual steps, the 8-step forgiveness, the positive thinking.
And you will get Y material result, the vertical jump, the money, the parking spot.
It's a spiritual vending machine model. And to really highlight what that model loses, we need to contrast it, just briefly, with some alternative frameworks that prioritize character or reality or non-attachment over manipulating outcomes.
Okay, like what?
Well, consider traditional Buddhist meditation. The foundation there is often non-attachment to desire itself.
The opposite of future vision.
Exactly. The practice is about observing the mind, accepting impermanence, and actively detaching from the very desires that Phase 4 encourages you to amplify. The goals are fundamentally different.
Or you could look at something like Stoic philosophy.
Great example. Stoicism focuses intensely on virtue ethics, on character development. The emphasis is entirely on what you can control, your judgments, your reactions, your actions.
Not on controlling external outcomes.
Not at all. Not trying to manifest wealth or avoid hardship. It's about building an internal fortress of resilience and virtue, regardless of external circumstances. It's not an external lever.
Even in modern secular mindfulness practices like Vipassana.
Same principle. The core teaching is observation without goal-oriented manipulation. You sit, you observe the reality of sensations, of suffering, of impermanence.
You don't use the observation time to try and solve your mortgage or increase your sales quota.
Exactly. You're training the mind to accept reality as it is, not bend it to your will.
So this contrast really throws the core failure points of the optimization model into sharp relief. Let's synthesize the major risks for you, the listener, if you're thinking about adopting a practice like this. 3 big ones.
Okay. First, the commodification risk. Your internal spiritual development becomes just another tool, entirely subordinate to material goals. Your inner life is treated like a profit center to be managed. It erodes genuine spiritual seeking.
Second,
empirical overreach. Taking those legitimate, modest scientific benefits of meditation like coherence, stress reduction, and stretching them into these wild, unsubstantiated, almost magical claims about controlling destiny and manifesting specific outcomes. It undermines the credibility of real science on meditation.
and the third, the core contradiction.
Finally, the fundamental philosophical incoherence. Advocating strict control through exact protocols, the 6 steps, the 8 steps.
While simultaneously demanding spontaneous surrender regarding the outcomes, the universe will handle the how and when.
It's telling you to row as hard as you can in one fixed direction, while simultaneously praying that the fixed destination you can't change is actually the one you wanted all along. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, so this deep deconstruction, it leads us to a final assessment. A cold, hard look at the 6-phase framework. It's nuanced, right? Not entirely useless, but maybe overhyped.
Exactly. It's not without merit, but its promise definitely exceeds its philosophical capacity.
So our sources deliver a pretty pragmatic final judgment. Let's talk scores. As a utility score, meaning how well does it function as a practical system, getting you into a daily routine, helping emotional regulation, providing structure.
For that, it gets a respectable 7 out of 10. If you need that structure to force yourself to meditate, to regulate your nervous system, yeah, it can work effectively on that level. But as a philosophical coherence score, meaning how well does it hold up as a resilient, sustainable spiritual framework for making sense of the world, navigating suffering, achieving genuine non-attachment?
There it scores.
A critical low,
Yeah.
3 out of 10.
Yeah.
It simply cannot bear the weight of real, complex, existential reality. It's too brittle.
And that risk of commodification we talked about.
Remains critically high. The overall assessment is that this system represents peak optimization spirituality.
peak optimization spirituality.
Highly effective for specific, practical, measurable benefits, like calming down, maybe feeling more focused, but entirely unstable, potentially corrosive, even damaging when you try to stretch it into a comprehensive worldview.
So the value, we have to acknowledge, is in making structured practice accessible. It gets people meditating.
That's its strength. It lowers the barrier to entry for people intimidated by less structured paths. The danger, though, resides squarely in the spiritual materialism and the radical overpromising of external control.
Okay, so if we strip away the problematic dogma, the overpromising, how do we perform some architectural reinforcements for someone who likes the structure but wants to avoid the philosophical pitfalls?
Our sources suggest focusing on replacing the highly charged, often misleading terminology with more resilient, more grounded, non-dogmatic foundations.
Like what? Instead of manifestation.
Replace manifestation, which implies you're magically manipulating the universe, with the concept of intentional living. Much more grounded.
What does that mean?
It means focusing on aligning your daily actions, your choices, with your core values and your sense of purpose. Acting with intention, regardless of the immediate external result. It's about integrity, not magic.
Okay, and instead of destiny, that fixed 33% highway.
Substitute destiny, which kind of traps you, makes you vulnerable to fate, with purpose discovered.
Discovery, not dictation.
Exactly. Purpose isn't a fixed map handed down. It's something you actively seek, you evolve, you refine through reflection, through engagement with the world, through learning. It grows with you.
And the big one, instead of blissipline, that relentless pursuit of peak state.
Critically, we need to exchange blissipline for consistent practice designed for resilience.
Resilience, not just bliss.
Right. A practice that acknowledges struggle is normal, that incorporates the processing of difficult emotions, doesn't pathologize them. The aim becomes internal equilibrium, durability, the capacity to handle life's ups and downs, rather than guaranteeing constant, unbroken happiness.
So these repairs, these foundational shifts, they change the entire focus, don't they?
Completely. They move the spiritual goal away from trying to manipulate the universe into delivering your wish list.
And towards equipping your internal self, your character, your resilience to handle whatever reality the universe actually delivers.
And that, at the end of the day, is a vastly more robust, more sustainable, and frankly, more authentic spiritual framework for navigating real life. And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you. Where is the line between a useful model of reality and a dangerous dogma in your own spiritual or personal development practice? How do you know when you've crossed it?
Let us know in the comments. Question the narrative. Deconstruct the dogma. See the system.
We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical. Thank you for joining us.